Welcome back to another episode of the Reinsurance Podcast here at TMPAA. I am joined by Patrick Charles, Head of Casualty at SiriusPoint North America.
Correct, yeah.
I get that all right.
You're close enough. Good to see you, Jared.
Good to see you, Patrick. Welcome. So how are you finding the conference so far?
It's still early, right?
Yeah, just getting started.
Middle of day one, but this is, Target Markets is a really important conference for not just the MGA space broadly, but for us at SiriusPoint. It's a really big part of, for us, connecting with people that we already do business with and partner with, but also it's a great chance to see, the whole MGA ecosystem in one spot twice a year.
Yeah.
And it's a very efficient way to connect with people, new, old, friends and, emerging friends.
Yeah, well, we've sort of heard that as a theme in all of our conversations so far, is the sort of congregation of everyone who really matters to this ecosystem, because the program business is really an ecosystem sort of approach with reinsurers all the way down to third-party administrators and technology providers and everything else.
Absolutely, and that's one of the benefits of this conference is you can see all these different parts of the value chain in the ecosystem who come together and really work in this space that is quite unique.
Yeah. And with your role at SiriusPoint, when you come to events like this, what are the sort of primary things you're trying to achieve? Who are you most excited to connect with throughout that ecosystem?
Yeah, so part of it is we do have a bunch of existing partners who, we see them throughout the year, but, we know that there's always these two touch points that even if we find it tough to align on schedules, twice a year we'll get to see each other at Target Markets.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of it, is connecting with people we're already doing business with, whether it's service providers or MGAs. But then another part is, look, we're always looking to take our strategy forward, and so part of that is finding new expert MGAs and underwriters in different spaces that we're intrigued by, to see if we can find new folks to do business with.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the really interesting thing we're seeing with the MGA sector, is how many new MGAs are being spun up, especially with how easily accessible technology and resources are now, that there's more of those things happening. Are there particular categories or sectors that are most intriguing to SiriusPoint? Are you doubling down on things you're doing or looking to diversify into net new areas?
Yeah, so we're already pretty widely diverse. Our book is, we have a good-sized book, and we operate across a wide range of products. But at this point, we are spending more time in the primary GL space, as well as the E&S property space. And some of that is just the trends that we're seeing in those spaces, we think lend themselves to us getting more involved. Some of it is we're a little more over-concentrated in a few other areas of the industry. But fundamentally, we're most interested in finding expert underwriters, fantastic platforms, people who know how to operate and run a business.
Yeah. Well, I think that's another really big trend that we're seeing, is the new MGAs that are being spun up are being led by genuine experts who've spent their career in these sectors, who are now spinning out to do their own thing and picking up on these technology platforms and to bring that to life.
Yeah, I think look, this space has always lended itself towards people who are deep experts, and I think one of the things that we're all seeing in the industry now is that true, deep, expert underwriters who have a following in the distribution side of the world, they're realizing that they might not enjoy and they might not thrive in a more bureaucratic or stifling or regimented large carrier world, and they might find that it just gives them a little more freedom to operate without some of the maybe unnecessary hindrances that they see in the carrier space.
Yeah. Well, it's also this opportunity in many ways to back yourself. If you believe there's an opportunity somewhere, it's a lot harder to convince, the head of distribution at the insurer to let you go into a new category. But running the MGA kind of gives you a bit more autonomy to say, I believe this is an opportunity in this sector, and back yourself and go after it.
Without a doubt, the phrase that I hear most often is people saying, I just want to bet on myself.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it, right? Are people willing to take the risk to bet on themselves?
Yeah. And when you think about the MGA partners that you work with, how do you think about the role that data plays in helping you evaluate, one, their portfolio and how they're underwriting that book, but two, how you use that data to underwrite the risks yourselves or even pass it on to reinsurers downstream?
Yeah, it's absolutely mission critical. And here's the thing, Jared, it's table stakes at this point.
Yeah.
Right now, the best platforms already have been thinking about this for years and years and years. some underwriters who are newer to the MGA space don't necessarily appreciate how much data played a role in their past life and their past platform they operated on. But we think the best MGA ecosystems already have been thinking about this for years. The reinsurers we work with, ourselves, since we're also a reinsurer, our reinsurance team thinks about it, and we just think it's table stakes to be, a best-in-class MGA. You need to have a grip on your data, and you need to be willing to share it openly with the carriers that you partner with.
Yeah, well, and it's always been a central theme to how this industry is shifting forward, but we're moving. Relationships will always matter immensely, right?
Absolutely.
This is how this industry works.
Yep.
But it's more important to be able to evidence and provide clarity of your data to sort of facilitate a stronger relationship. Are you seeing that as well on the MGA sort of level as well as the reinsurance level?
Yeah, we're seeing that on the MGA level as well as the insurance level. And part of it is just simply, if you want to build a stable book that survives the long term over decades and decades and rides the cycle effectively, we need to be able to manage our own aggregation of risk across entities, but we think really good MGAs do the same thing already.
Yeah.
And you can't do that without data.
Yeah. And you mentioned a really interesting thing, and I think SiriusPoint is, a leader in this space that does both the insurance capacity but also provides reinsurance capacity as well. How do you think about the group's ambitions into most effectively deploying capital into the MGA sector? Because it is this, you're sort of occupying two positions in this ecosystem.
Yeah, look, that's one of those things that we manage top down at the firm level, and look, I'll always have a selfish preference for everything to go into the insurance side of the world, but I know that that's actually not the right answer for us as a firm, and so at a very high level within the group, we decide which lines are we going to deploy capital in, and where does it make the most sense to deploy it? Is it insurance or reinsurance form? And that's it's great to have a really smart group of people who think about that every day, and that's really the office of the CUO who works through that with a lot of feedback from the businesses. Our head of reinsurance is here at this conference also, and we work really well together. We're not territorial about how we support MGAs. We try to find the best fit. And we're one firm.
No, it's really interesting. And when you think about looking forward from this conference, what are the trends that most interest you guys as you look for opportunities and exploring new things in front of you?
Yeah, I think one of the trends that everyone's talking about still is AI, right? And I think one of my areas of worry when I think about the MGA space is there the same amount of capital and access to kind of R&D funds to build out the insights from AI and really change the efficiency model versus a large carrier who might have just hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through. It's a worry that I have, but then the flip side is I talk to so many MGAs who are able to do these things for 10 cents on the dollar relative to a big carrier. So how AI shows up in terms of risk selection, pricing, back office efficiency, and how that stacks up against more the traditional market, I think that's really going to dictate to a large degree how much MGAs can kind of take forward and continue to, I think what we've all seen is gain share in the market. Can that continue? A big part of that will be keeping up in the arms race of AI. It's
a fascinating point, because you're right. One of the positions that MGAs have always had is using the expertise to sort of access risk in a really efficient way and bring that risk to the market. If they are able to sort of further improve their sort of positioning there by being more efficient by leveraging AI, that might drive a greater acceleration and more net new MGAs beginning to emerge. Are you seeing, if we think about the weight of MGAs as a distribution channel for carriers and fronting companies, do you believe that will continue to accelerate over time?
I think, look, historically it's been more cyclical. But I think in the last 5 to 7 years we've seen more of a trend that's sustainable. And I think what it really comes down to is legacy carriers are becoming more homogenized. Right? They like more traditional, vanilla, predictable risk, and the MGA world is by nature specialized. And I think as the industry fragments into kind of homogenized versus specialized, look, the returns in the specialized world have been higher over the long run, and underwriters who are experts, who bet on themselves, are drawn to that model.
Yeah.
So I think that still continues. The question is it at the same pace of growth that we've seen?
Yeah.
Nobody knows the answer.
Yeah.
I would bet on yes more than no.
Yeah. Well, and it allows someone like SiriusPoint to get access to diversification in a really powerful way, in a more effective way, perhaps, than trying to build all that diversification in your own offering. It allows you to sort of identify new segments or new opportunities, lean into those expert underwriters and say, this might be a good way for us to lean into accessing that diversification.
That's exactly right. And in addition, we don't have a direct business on the insurance side within PNC Insurance. So we don't have direct teams of underwriters out there, working with brokers, hunting for business every day. We operate through MGAs.
Yeah.
So this is the model that we've chosen. This is the model that makes sense for us. Yeah. It would take a lot of time and energy and money for us to build out an entire back office to do it direct. Yeah. And we see this as a great path.
Yeah, it's a really capital efficient way to build out the portfolios in that same way.
That's right.
How do you see the role of maybe third-party capital or ILS also sort of funneling through here? Is that something that you guys are looking at as a way to sort of build up access to additional reinsurance sort of capacity as you sort of build out the MGA bits, or is that something that's more adjacent to what you think about as your primary
I think
offering?
that's something that we'll see play out. We'll see. Right. For now, it's not a big focus, but I think we'll see how it plays out in the rest of the market, and there may be opportunities, there may not.
Yeah.
It depends on the space that we're in.
Yeah. No, it makes a ton of sense. And then when you look at across this ecosystem that's here, what are the partners? You have obviously partners on the MGA side, but are you also here looking at solution providers and tech solutions as well as brokers in that group as well?
Yeah, we try to spend time with folks who we think could be additive to our platform, and it's more of our ops and IT team who spend time with those groups. But because we're closest to the market when it comes to the PNC world, we do it's kind of a partnership to figure out those ideal fits. And so it's a part of what we do, but I'd say most of my time when I'm here at the conference is spent with MGAs.
Yeah, no, perfect. Well, Patrick, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and looking forward to the end of the event with you.
All right, Jared, it's good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you.